Good afternoon, folks. How are we doing today? Apologies again. I, if you follow me on socials, you'll know kind of why. Day job has been kind of all over the place. Last week, I was away for 3 days. That kind of messed everything up because I was away on Monday, and I was away on no, I was when I went Monday evening. I was away on Wednesday, and then next week actually I'm away again for some of the week, so it's all a little bit chaotic. Or this week I forgot where we even are. So this week my daughter was off sick from school on Monday, so I was looking after her, and then this Wednesday day job was just very busy. But I didn't like the idea of huge amounts of radio silence. Hence the fact we are doing what would normally be a Monday stream on a Friday, which is slightly confusing for my head. But there we go. But we're here, and thank you so much to those people who have been able to join us. I see already we have Photostyle out there, so thank you so much for that. And hello to anyone out there on YouTube, because we are still dual or parallel or simultaneous streaming to both Twitch and YouTube. So thank you very much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. It is cold. This inevitably obvious caveat: it's cold for the UK. It's clearly not cold for Canada. It's not cold for people in Russia. But people in Scandinavia, but it's pretty cold here. It is what it is, 5 degrees Celsius outside, and the added fun that our boiler has been playing up, which sucks so much. We have boiler cover. It covers some things, it doesn't cover others. There's issues with sludge in radiators. It's a whole thing, a very frustrating and expensive thing. It is getting sorted slowly but surely. It's just taking time, and as I said, it's expensive, which sucks. This is not the time for expensive repair stuff. It really isn't. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? We just try our best. There we go. Let's try and keep the intros relatively short. I've got a few bits and pieces to cross off. I'll go through it relatively quickly, especially for people in Bodland who don't want minutes and minutes and minutes of me saying little tidbits about my week. I'm still enjoying Dragon Age. It is very good. I am nowhere near as far as other people. I know some people have finished it already. But between travel, where obviously I can't take my PlayStation with me, and this week I had the fun thing that my capture card stopped working, or specifically, it took a long time to figure this out. The USB cable from my capture card not quite stopped working, but something clearly broke in it, because I was getting this weird error message that said essentially that I can't upscale video from my capture card. I thought it was Mac. I thought because I upgraded to Sequoia, I thought maybe it was doing some weird AI upscaling or something, which I'd have to find a way to turn off. But no, just the USB cable that's been working for ages has now just decided it's not going to work. But not enough to the degree that it was immediately obvious. It was just giving this weird error. But what are you going to do? We're now working again. I think at some point I do need to upgrade my capture card. I'm using an HD 60X, which is fine, but I'm actually having to reduce some of the resolution and fancy stuff on my PS5 to make it work. Whereas if I had, I think, is it a 4KX? I wouldn't have to do that, but they do cost like about £230. So I'm not just going to spontaneously splurge on that. Because I have no such funds for spontaneous splurging. But it's something I'll look into probably in the new year at some point. We'll see. But Dragon Age is really good. I am very much enjoying it. I'm just playing little bits of it when I can. What else have I been doing? I've actually been doing a bit of editing, which is odd. For those who have been tuning in recently, I've contributed a short story to a short story book produced by Treat Your Geek. It's called An Adventurer's Guide to Love, Life and Villainy. Is the name of the book, and I'm doing a bit of proofreading on that right now of the stories that I didn't write, because I think it's very difficult to proofread your own work. You can do it to a degree, but you're never going to catch everything. But I'm enjoying that. Obviously, it proofreading is tedious, but I mean, I'm enjoying getting stuck into that. It's nice to brush up the editing muscle, especially for fiction. I do an awful lot of proofing and editing and writing for my day job, but that is non-fiction education tech stuff. So it's nice to proof a bit of fiction along the way, which is good. And last thing on last bit of general intro news stuff, spending a lot of time editing Shought Thorts season 2. I am crossing stuff off day by day. I'm trying to get a little bit done as I go, because, and almost jump to the end here, the first episode of season 2, which is technically episode 10 overall. I'm not going back to 1 with every season, it's a little silly. But the season 2 launch happens today. It happens in 39 minutes. So at 1 p.m. GMT, we are having a new episode of Shought Thorts, which is with the ghost of Eli, who was an absolute delight. So, spoiler here, we're not going to raid at the end of this. We're just going to go segue straight on into me telling you, go and watch Shought Thorts. So we've got that one coming out. I've got in 2 weeks' time. Not gonna. Shall I? A pre-announcement here. There you go. You get a little spoiler of this one. In 2 weeks' time, you get our first duo episode where I'm interviewing Steph and Bex from Lucky Fox Studio. So it's an extended episode. I think it runs about 26 minutes. When I interview them both, ask them slightly modified versions of the standard, somewhat silly questions, but that's a lot of fun. And the reason I've scheduled it then is Bex is actually on my Dragonmeet panel. Our Dragonmeet panel, at the end of next week. So I've tried to sync it up with that as close as possible. But that's really good. I'm editing the 3rd episode of this season right now. Actually right now. But that's what I'm currently working on. That is going to be great. I am not going to spoil who the guest is for that one because it's a really freaking good guest. I've been trying to arrange this one for a little while and it happened. Did the interview this week. It was wonderful. Editing it right now. I think it's going to be a cracking episode. And then I've got one other one that's already edited and one more that needs editing. So I'm in a pretty good place, I think. And I'll probably, in December, probably continue recording. I would think season 2 is, broadly speaking, going to be about the same length, about 10 episodes. But yeah, that's going really well. Brief tangent on social media. Social media. Post the US election, and we're not going to talk about it, there was the biggest migration or exodus away from Twitter I think we've ever seen. I think honestly Twitter could be actually going to die this time because so many people have moved over to Threads and Blue Sky. Blue Sky is doing phenomenally well, and there's a really great attitude and vibe over there. I'm really enjoying it, and people are embracing starter packs, which is really interesting. So if you're not on Blue Sky or you've not done a lot of stuff on Blue Sky, starter packs are essentially people put together a list of, if you like whatever topic, let's say indie tabletop RPG creators, here are some recommended people, which is nice. But also there's a nice follow all button. So if you go like, yeah, I trust this person, boom, follow all. You can very quickly follow a lot of people, especially if you're trying to pick up where you left off with Twitter. It's very nice to quickly follow a load of people who have that similar sort of interest to you, which is brilliant. Because of that, good grief, my follow account has boomed over the last couple of weeks. I've gone from, I swear, in a week, I've gone from about 300, 400 followers to I think I'm on 1,400 odd right now, which is kind of cool. I'm not quite where I was with Twitter. Twitter, I think, when I called it with my Twitter account, I was on something like 1,700 and something, but I expect there were a hell of a lot of bots in there. By those last days of Twitter, the bot followers were just ridiculous. So my follow account may be lower than it was at Twitter, but it's a hell of a lot better quality, because yeah, Twitter is just a bin fire, it really is. I am on Threads, I am using it. I'm still kind of disappointed by it. I mean, it does link to Instagram, which is kind of nice, but I don't like the algorithm of it. I really don't. So I will keep using it because there are a lot of people who haven't moved to Blue Sky yet. He says, hopefully. Yeah, Blue Sky is definitely where I'm based. And last thing on that, I did a little rejig of my Discord channel because, yeah, I just wanted to collate some stuff and refocus it a little bit. So if you are interested in joining my Discord for general chat, you know, about the projects I'm doing, talk about media, generally just a nice cozy place to chat, there is a link in the chat. You're welcome to use it. No pressure to do so, though. I am very, very aware of the fact that Discord, you know, if you are someone who uses Discord, you inevitably follow way too many channels for you to actually stay on top of them. So no offense whatsoever will be taken if you just go, actually, I could do without another Discord channel. But it's there if you want to use it. And I do post a lot of stuff about projects I'm working on and the like. So it's got quite a nice vibe there. Last thing for me, Dragonmeet. Dragonmeet is next Saturday, which is very, very cool. As I said before, I'm doing a panel. It's called Worlds of Pure Imagination, Designing and Running Tabletop RPGs for All Ages. Yes, good old mouthful that. It is in track 2, like seminar room 2 at 3 p.m. I am kind of gutted by the scheduling on this one because actually simultaneously in rooms 1 and 3 there are 2 other good panels, and I will happily promote them. So I think in room 1 it's Journaling the Rise of Solo Games, which features Taylor Navarro and others, and in room 3 there is First Product to First Convention, the Creator Experience, which I know has got Anya aka Lalion Cosplay and others in that. So no offense if you're at Dragonmeet, no offense will be taken if you're not at the panel I'm on, because those other panels are freaking excellent. But what I would say is at 3 p.m. go to one of those panels because they're all going to be excellent. It's my panel, it's me, it's Rich from Hatchlings Games, it's Bex from Lucky Fox Studio, and it's Liz Birch. If you've been following me on socials, Liz, an amazing musician who's been weaving in music and role play and work with kids. But she was, long story short, she uses a wheelchair. Travel and accommodation arrangements were challenging. She was meant to be sponsored to help support it. It didn't work out, etc., etc. So I put together a GoFundMe to help pay for that. And good grief, people have been amazing with that. The goal was like £300. We're at 240, which is enough. She said she can kind of cover the rest to make this work, which is fantastic. I'm so glad she's going to be joining us. But if you want to chuck in a couple of extra quid, the link is in the chat there. It would be amazing if we could pay the whole thing for her. But I'm so glad we got to a place where she is comfortable that she can make the arrangements and come, which would be brilliant. And also, this is kind of cool. I mentioned this on socials, but this is really cool. On the back of organising this and the seminar schedule being published, Shanna Germain, who is one of the co-founders of Monty Cook Games, and the writer-designer of No Thank You Evil, which is like one of the big games in tabletop RPGs for kids, reached out to ask if she could join our panel, which is really, really cool. No pressure at all. No pressure at all. But it's a hell of a panel, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good one. And the number of people who are there selling stuff or not selling stuff and just wandering around, I think Dragonmeet is going to be really good. And there's the Muppet Meet networking event on the Sunday, which sadly I can't go to. But if you can, and you're a tabletop RPG creator, look at Soul Muppets' socials and get the details of that, because I think that's going to be good. It's going to be really good. So yeah, oh god, whole lot of stuff there. So the thing I wanted to talk about today is something I've had kind of as a backup thing to talk about for a couple of weeks now. But I think it's worth talking about because it's come up a few times in conversation, actually in my day job and in my kind of creative job, which is use of a Stream Deck or similar technology. You know, I use a Stream Deck, so that's the kind of the Elgato product. There are plenty of alternatives out there. I have no idea how they compare in terms of quality. I'm just telling you what I can do with a Stream Deck. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about this because actually it's great for streaming, but the thing I really want to focus on actually is stuff outside of streaming, because I have found that actually as a tool for my workflow in creative work, it is brilliant. It really is. Now, I've only recently got it. I got it end of August as a birthday present, actually. My family asked what I wanted, and I said I would quite like a Stream Deck, so they all kind of clubbed together and got me a Stream Deck, which was really nice. Now I have, let's see if we're on camera, I have a Stream Deck Plus. It looks like this. The main difference being that it's got 4 buttons, it has things that happen here as well, and it's got 4 dials. There are smaller ones like the Neo that's got 6. There is a much larger one, it's gigantic, it's got about 30 buttons, but not the dials. I quite wanted the dials because I find them to be quite useful. But what I want to talk to you about today is, one, the journey I've taken in setting it up for streaming, and also how I've been using it for creative. Things are happening. Good grief. It's really small, I can't read them there. What on earth? We've got another follower. Thank you so much. And I can't read my feed. There we go. Mike Orzahal. Sorry, I messed up your surname. Orzahal. No, I got that ish right, I hope. Thank you so much for following. I really do appreciate it. And we hit our follower goal of 110, which is awesome. So thank you so much for joining me. I do appreciate it. So, well, let's talk a little bit about how we can use Stream Decks. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I found the notion of using a Stream Deck to be quite cool, but quite intimidating. I thought, well, do I have to jump in at the deep end and go, oh, this is the perfect config for how you do it for streaming? Or if you don't want to use someone else's, because I'm very much a kind of do-it-yourself kind of guy in terms of I don't want to just take someone else's setup. I want to build my own setup. And I then got in my head about like, oh, I need this, I need that, I need this, and what's the easiest way to do that? What's the most efficient way of doing that? And it got really complicated and, brain explosion. And the big message I'd say on the start here is, if you get a Stream Deck, and though I think this is good advice for creative anything, frankly, start small. Start small and chip away, or in this case, slowly add to your Stream Deck the things you are starting to use or starting to need, and do it slowly as you go. Don't try and build NASA overnight. You could, but you'll probably find that actually when you start using it, it's not quite as cool as you thought it was, and then you've got to rebuild it anyway. So, which is kind of silly. So my advice is start small and build it up. And like I said, I'm going to show you the setup for my Stream Deck for streaming, but also how I'm using it for creative stuff, specifically how I use it for Final Cut Pro, which has saved me so much time. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hop over to sharing my desktop, and I'm going to make that a little larger. And this is the interface that lets you see the buttons on my Stream Deck as it is set up right now, because it's easier than me trying to flip to another camera and actually just waving the thing at you. So this is the interface that you use for actually setting up your Stream Deck and deciding what buttons are going to be used for stuff. Now, what you can probably see here is this is the standard view I've got here. So this is my setup for streaming. So what I have, most of this is setting up various scenes. So I can toggle between those scenes, and not just toggle between the themes, that I can actually change stuff about muting. I find that to be really important, because you can very easily change between scenes. For example, in OBS, you just click on a different scene and it'll hop you to it. That's great. The thing that I inevitably need to do faster, or I might forget to do, is, for example, if I'm going from start soon to just chatting, on start soon I want my microphone muted, but when I go to just chatting I want my microphone on. If you see some of my early streams, you'll notice I actually messed this up a couple of times, and I spend the first couple of minutes still muted. Equally, if I jump to be right back, because I've say got to answer the door, I want my microphone to be muted straight away, and then when I toggle back for it to unmute again. You can set this sort of stuff up. So for example, my start soon one, it jumps to the scene start soon, it mutes my mic, it unmutes my desktop audio, and that's just for kind of belt and braces sort of thing. Whereas when I switch to just chatting, I switch the scene to Oh, that says starting soon. No, it jumped. It's just got the wrong name. There you go. Let's fix this. You can give it a descriptive name, and also what it actually does. So that jumps to the just chatting scene and unmutes my mic. What I also have on, because for space, I've got some standard views as well here, which is what I'm using right now, which is this one here. Is essentially a big shared screen and jumps me down to a little box in the bottom left, and I press the top left one and it'll move me up. No, go bottom left before, top left right now. So it lets me toggle between these two really easily. At some point I may do bottom right and top right. I've not felt a need to yet, so I'm not making work for myself for no reason, because that's just silly. I've got Be Right Back. I'm not going to demonstrate. Well, I could demonstrate that one really quickly, but it will mute me. So if I press Be Right Back, it does that. It takes me to that Be Right Back screen, and what it does do is it mutes my microphone, which is really useful, especially if I've had to do that, because let's say I'm streaming in the evening and I hear or see my door open because my daughter's woken up. Maybe she's had a bad dream. I just want to hit that Be Right Back button. With one button, I'm muted, I'm off camera, I can do what I need to do, and then come back and be back on mic and back on camera. I also have a similar one, which is my end screen. It doesn't actually end the stream. I thought that was dangerous, attaching that to a button. It just takes me to my end screen, which is really, really useful. I also have a couple of toggles on this one, which I use for certain reasons. So I have one. Let's go to the bottom left-hand one. So we've got background. So if you watch a lot of my streams and are very, very canny, you will notice the fact that I have different background colors for what it is. So my standard screen is green. If I am doing a creative stream, like I'm writing or proofing something, I actually have a purple background. And if I'm gaming, I have a red background. So all this is doing is it is changing the visibility of the layer I want to appear and hiding the other two, just to reduce the amount of clutter on my screen. Nice and easy and very useful. This is one I put together kind of quickly for when I did my Discworld review, because I realized I wanted to do that silly thing where I did footnotes and look down. So I've got my camera there, which is attached to my ring light, but I also have a camera on my laptop, which you can't see. It's like here-ish. And I wanted to be able to change to look at that camera very easily to do the footnotes. It might not work, because it might be broken. Let's see if it works. So, nah, that didn't work. It might work if I go to just chatting. Let's have a look. Oh dear. No, it's broken. I did make it on the fly for that stream. It's not a permanent piece of kind of real estate that I'm going to be using. Or if I'm going to do that at some point, I'll make it better. But it worked. It worked really well for that, rather than me toggling stuff. I could just hit a button, because you can't see my hand. You can't see that I'm toggling that stuff. I also have my heart rate for when I do horror games. I have a heart rate app that links to OBS, and I can have that on and off as I choose, which is quite cool. So that's my setup, and I started really simple. I really did. So a lot of these grey buttons I didn't have here to begin with. I literally just did start soon, just chatting. I think I had the bottom left version of this, the one I'm using right now. And I think I'd be right back. I think that was my initial setup. It was just so I could toggle through the core stuff that I would do during a stream to make my life a little bit easier. I also have some dials at the bottom here, which I've got my microphone volume, so I can make myself louder and quieter. And if I click it, that mutes myself very easily. Similarly, I have one here for desktop audio, up, down, and then click to mute. And similarly for my console, so that's the audio coming through my capture card. I can fine tune that up and down and mute. The muting is really easy. If I found that somehow I've manually overridden something rather than using my buttons to make sure the volumes, certain things that should be on are on and certain things that should be off are off. But inevitably when I do this, I'd be like, I think looking at the bars, I'm a little bit too loud relative to my desktop, so maybe I'll just move the desktop audio down a little bit, or it's nice and easy to tweak that on the fly, which is great, because inevitably, especially when I'm doing console gaming, it's never quite what I intended to be, and it goes slightly wrong. But there we go. My mic is a little low. That I can't do with technology. That is just me adjusting it ever so slightly. That's great, and that does what I need to do for streaming, and it's wonderful. And it's what I originally bought it for, but I did have this sneaking suspicion when I suggested to my family that actually I'd quite like one, that I would find it useful in other things, and I 100% do. My editing of Shought Thorts is so much faster now I've got my Stream Deck, because what I've created for myself is a similar sort of thing for Final Cut. So what this is some editing tools, Final Cut. And again, this is when that thing came in of, don't take someone else's stuff. Build the tools you need and you're using a lot. Start small and add to it. So mine is really, really straightforward. There are so many tools you can use in Final Cut. But there are so many that I don't use, because I use Final Cut for a very specific reason. I use it for editing my my interview show. So I'm not doing multi-camera setups. I'm not doing very clever things with audio. I am essentially taking a Zoom meeting recording that's got myself and my guest or guests on there. I have an overlay with a transparent boxes for where we're going to go. I have to essentially cut it up, that video, into 2 copies of it. I have to remove the main audio and attach the individual audio to each of them, so that if I edit one video feed out of sync with the other one, that the associated audio stays in sync with itself. And then I have to just edit it. That's broadly speaking what I have to do. So I've got tools specifically for that, and so that, you know, it's actually quite easy for, let me try and show this, so that if my thumb is here, I can reach to the things that I use the most are on the top left, and the things I use least are on the far side. So I can have one hand on my mouse, right hand on the mouse, and left hand on the Stream Deck, and I can work in a really efficient flow in this one. So Blade All is my biggest friend on this one. So that's in the top left. I then got delete, because inevitably if I'm editing something, either for creative stuff or I have to do a bit of video editing for my day job as well, it's Blade All, delete that section. Very, very quick and easy. I also have regular Blade, which, if you don't know the difference, I'm not going to dwell too much on it. Essentially, if I've got multiple layers, multiple tracks of stuff on top of each other, say my video and audio, my guest's video and audio, and maybe something else I've overlaid on top of it as well, Blade All cuts through everything in one fell swoop. Blade just blades the one track that I'm highlighting at that time. So I tend to use Blade All more often. That's why it's in the top left, but I do use Blade enough that I've got a button for it. Retime is really useful for me. If myself and my guests are talking, we talk over each other a little bit, I try and move one of our audios a little bit to fall into a breath or a pause with the other person, so that it flows a little bit better and you don't get cross chatter. And how I do that, and I'll probably do a proper video on this at some point, is I retime it slightly. So I either extend or shrink one person's content so that actually they sync up a lot nicer. So that's really useful. And I found having a play pause button is useful, because inevitably I'll cut something, I'll play it, I'll pause to the next bit, I'll rejig that. So rather than me using my mouse, I've got a play pause button. On the far right hand side, I've got transform and crop. There are way more things you could use if I was doing a lot more clever things with Final Cut Pro. But they're really useful for just really quickly resizing and trimming out the 2 video feeds so they fit nicely where I want them to be through my overlay. And my dials, I've got one for volume, nice and easy, up, down, that's fine. And if I click it, it mutes the tracks, and I end up doing that quite a lot, especially if someone isn't talking but there's a little bit of background noise. I'll just mute that clip. Zoom lets me zoom in and out of my feed. To view it, you know, either the whole thing or going down to minute detail. I do have a move dial. I don't tend to use it that much, but I found occasionally I do, and it's worth having, and I had the space. And the other one is undo redo. That's quite nice having that on a dial. And like I said, that has sped up my workflow so much, because a lot of me editing Shought Thorts, I would say maybe like 60% of it is really easy bread and butter editing. It really is. And about 40% is me having to be clever because there's cross chatter, or I want to cut something short because I record for up to half an hour, and I cut it down to 13 to 15 minutes. So I have to do a lot of trimming along the way. Sometimes that's easy, sometimes that's hard. And, you know, especially with the bread and butter stuff, being able to work really quickly with hand on the mouse with one hand and blade or delete, retime, all that stuff is becoming really quick and easy workflow for me with the Stream Deck. Whereas before, my hand was contorted into various shortcuts. Shortkey, that's not a phrase. Into various hotkey shortcuts. That's what I meant to say. Some of which are very similar to each other. And inevitably I make mistakes and all of that, whereas actually just slapping buttons on this makes it way, way easier. And again, I built that up. I have a similar one for writing. I have one for pages. Now, I don't need a lot when I'm writing, to be honest, in terms of shortcut keys. So I've just gone for the bare minimum that I need. What are the things I do when writing in pages that I have to faff around with menus? So I've just got bookmark something and add a link, because I do a lot of internal links in Little But Fierce, because it's primarily to begin with a digital document, so I have lots of internal links between it. So if I reference a section, I can then have a link to that section. So I do bookmark and add link a lot of times. Fonts, bringing up the full font menu on a Mac is something you've got to faff around with, so I've just got a button for that. And change the colours. If I've got to change the colour of something, it's nice to be able to access that really quickly. I do also have font size on that. I so rarely use this, but I had the space, so I thought I'd slap it on that. And that helps as well. I mean, and the last one I've got here is my default profile, which is when I'm not using an app. This is literally just for browsing stuff. The screenshot, those are the default ones that come with it. That's why I'm going to change the colours. And I've got miscellaneous apps. I've got content creation stuff. I've got like Pages, Numbers, Art Studio, OBS, Final Cut, and Audacity. And gaming stuff, I've got Steam. I've got, oh, good grief, what's it called? What's the name of the app? I can't even remember. That's terrible. I should know. Give me a second, because I want to be able to credit stuff. Essentially, it's an app I use for linking to my camera very quickly, which sounds like an incredibly specific thing. And it is. It's called Real-Time Preview. It's because my PlayStation is connected through my capture card. So the only way I can play my PlayStation easily and still use my headphones and all of that is to very quickly view the camera feed. So I have an app that just does that very easily, and I've got it's OpenEMU, my emulator, as well. But really, the point of all of this, drawing this to a close, is that Stream Decks are really bloody useful. If you're a streamer, they're not essential, but they do make your life an awful lot easier, especially if you are doing kind of everything yourself, which most streamers are. You know, it's nice to be able to very quickly do stuff, and I know there's a lot of streamers who have got things for raid videos and stuff like that. Having them at a drop of at a click of a button is very, very helpful. But I think it's an optional kind of thing. You know, once your setup becomes more and more complicated, it's just easier and easier to have stuff at a click of a button. Rather than toggling through menus, because that's when you make mistakes with stuff while streaming. You know, inevitably. I mean, I've got 3 screens right now. I've got a camera there with a light. I've got a microphone and a boom arm here. There's a lot going on here, and having stuff on buttons rather than me fapping with menus makes my life an awful lot easier. It really does. So, I would say it's worth, if you're a regular streamer, I think it's worth having something like this. I think the new one, the Neo, is relatively cheap, and there's also Black Friday sales on right now. So I would consider investing in one. I do like my Pro with the dials, especially for adjusting my volume and the volume of the various components of my audio. Sorry, I've got a cold, and it's suddenly just hitting me quite hard. Sorry about that. But yeah, having the dials to toggle the various elements of my audio while streaming without having to break my concentration is brilliant. But I find when editing video, and if I was editing, you know, if I if I wasn't doing video for Shought Thorts, if I was doing it just as an audio podcast, if I was editing in Audacity, I would have a similar sort of setup. And I cannot state enough how much it has sped up my workflow of editing. It was a real slog, the first few episodes of Shought Thorts, I was finding my feet with Final Cut, which is kind of understandable that it would be a little bit challenging and take a bit of time. But even when I knew what I was doing, so when I was editing episodes like 5, 6, 7-ish, I knew what I was doing. And yet it was taking me a long time. It was taking me like a good week or something like that, maybe even more to edit an episode. And that's why I essentially ended up on hiatus, because I realized I could keep plowing ahead with this, but it's gonna take more and more time and not gonna have time to do anything else. Whereas since I've been editing episodes with my Stream Deck, it's been so much faster. I had an episode. I mean, let's give a good example of this one. The duo episodes, that's the longest episode I have done of this, was... So I had like about 45 minutes worth of content and I ended up cutting down to 26. I recorded that episode on, let me check my notes, the 30th of October. And I think I had a finished edit of it that I was then doing the subtitles for by about the 6th or something like that. I turned it around incredibly quickly. So in about a week, I edited a double episode in the time it would have taken me to do one episode, or maybe not even one episode earlier on. So it's made a huge difference to my workflow. So I'm really pleased with that. So if you are a creator of any kind, and I imagine if you do things like Unreal and the like, so if you do animation or if you do game design and the like, I would really recommend getting a Stream Deck or similar kind of buttoned device to speed up your workflow. It just makes life easier. Again, especially because it's cold right now. So if you've got creaky joints like I have, buttons are so much easier than hotkeys. It really is. So of course I'm saying that it's money. They're not cheap, I think the Stream Deck Plus that I used was something like that, 140, and that was in a sale. So not everyone can, and you can go off brand, of course you can. Undoubtedly, non-Elgato products are probably a lot cheaper. But I think it does make a big old difference. So that was the main thing I wanted to show you on this one. They're great for streaming and they're great for other creative work. So do take a look on that if you do one or both of those. I find it to be very handy. All right. Let's wrap this up so that we've got a bit of time and you can maybe have a little bio break before Shought Thorts starts at 1 o'clock. So first of all, thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. And thank you to my new follower, Mike. I do appreciate it. And thank you so much. And I can see Cargan X lurking there. I really appreciate that as well. That's just absolutely fantastic. If you've enjoyed this, please, if you've not done so already, please follow me here. I say here as if here is one place. Please follow me on Twitch and please follow me on YouTube. I'm DC Bradshaw on both of them. YouTube, you also get the joys of all my VODs and you get Shought Thorts. So please consider following me there. You can also follow me on socials. I am at dcbradshaw.com on Blue Sky and I'm at DC Bradshaw on Threads. I also have a Ko-Fi if you would like to subscribe to that. It's DC Bradshaw RPG. It is there. It's £3 a month. I totally understand that most people, can't afford to be supporting everyone they want to support. But if you do have a bit of free cash, that would be wonderful because it pays for things like the subscriptions for Podbean, so I can keep Shought Thorts running because I don't get any money from that. It means it just frees up so that any profits I get from selling tabletop RPG stuff, I actually get to either invest back into making more content, or I actually get to take it as profit, which would be lovely someday. It really would. But thank you so much for that. In terms of other bits and pieces, again, I'm at Dragonmeet on next Saturday, which if I was sensible, I'd have written down what the heck the date is for that. Is that the 23rd? No, it's the 30th. Saturday the 30th. I'm at Dragonmeet. Please see the panel, my panel, or one of the other panels happening at 3 p.m. there. Or if you're just there and you see me, please say hey. You'll probably recognise this face, broadly speaking. He says, if he doesn't have the most generic white man face ever. But no, I will probably be wearing my little but fierce mask, so you'll probably recognise me from that. Hello, Moondust Cats. You've joined just as I'm wrapping up. But I do appreciate you popping in and lurking. So Dragonmeet, please come to that. Like I said, next week will probably be rescheduled streams because of travel, so I'll probably be doing stuff at the end of the week. We'll see. But the big thing here is, and I've got this with 5 minutes to spare before 1 o'clock, so it does give you time to have a quick bio break, but it also gives me time to do announcement stuff on socials because I've been disorganised here. Season 2 of Shought Thorts kicks off in 5 minutes over on my YouTube channel. So linky link is going in the chat here for the kind of premiere on there. So we're not doing a raid today. I will just please ask after here, hop over to there. The episode is 14 minutes long. I think you'll really enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, subscribe, share it with people. We're back with a bang for season 2, and it'd be wonderful to bring in new people to expand my audience so I can keep rolling with this, because I really enjoy making these. I really do. But it's a shame that only a small number of people watch them, relatively speaking. Please tune in for that. And then episodes are every fortnight. They come out Fridays, 1 p.m. GMT, every 2 weeks. Otherwise, I just completely burn out. But I really hope you enjoy them. But please, 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 especially with Blue Sky where there is no algorithm, share, recommend, send them to people, that I just really want to expand my audience on this one. And I'm really proud of what I'm making there. I think it's pretty cool. Okay, let's wrap it up there. So, the second I'm done here, follow that link. It'll start in 3 minutes, or the countdown will start in 3 minutes. Please share it with people. Please watch it through to the end, even if you're just listening to it. Oh, and finally on that, it is on in podcast form as well. But if you listen to it on a podcast, it'd be great if you could subscribe on YouTube as well. It just helps with my numbers. It really does. So thank you so much for that. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you at some point to be determined next week. But failing that, hopefully I will see some people at Dragonmeet. All right. Take care and have a wonderful day. All right. Bye.